What if the reason you don't feel disciplined isn't laziness at all, but the habits you practice every single day without noticing? Pause for a second and feel that question land. Because discipline isn't something you are born with, and confidence isn't something you wait for. They are built quietly, repeatedly, through habits so small they feel insignificant, yet so powerful they decide who you become. Most people chase motivation. They wake up hoping to feel inspired, hoping today will be different, hoping confidence will magically appear before they act. But here is the uncomfortable truth: motivation follows action, not the other way around. The people you admire didn't wake up one day fearless and focused. They built systems that forced them to show up when they didn't feel like it. Think about discipline as a muscle. If you only use it when you feel strong, it never grows. It grows when you show up tired, uncertain, and imperfect. Confidence works the same way. It is not loud at the beginning. It whispers. It says, do the small thing you promised yourself you would do even when no one is watching. Success, then, is not a dramatic leap. It is a quiet accumulation of promises kept, one habit at a time, one decision stacked on another. This is why habits matter more than goals. Goals are destinations, habits a vehicle. You don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your habits. In the next few minutes, we are going to talk about 5 habits that build discipline, confidence, and success from the inside out. Not overnight tricks, not motivational slogans, real habits that change how you see yourself. Because the moment you start keeping small promises, your identity shifts. You stop asking, can I do this? And start saying, this is who I am. These habits start basic, almost boring, and then they go deeper. They challenge how you manage your time, your energy, and your standards. They ask you to take responsibility, not for everything in your life, but for the next right action. If you commit to these habits, something unexpected happens. You stop waiting for permission, you stop needing applause. Discipline becomes your anchor. Confidence becomes your byproduct, and success becomes inevitable. Not because life gets easier, but because you become stronger. So listen closely, not to feel inspired, but to decide who you are willing to become, starting today. Make the choice now, take the first step, and let your habits write the story you will live forever onward. What if the first habit that builds real discipline has nothing to do with working harder, but everything to do with keeping one small promise every single day? That sounds too simple, and that's exactly why most people ignore it. They believe discipline must feel extreme. It doesn't, it must feel consistent. The first habit is this: decide one non-negotiable action and do it daily. No matter how small, not 10 actions, not a perfect routine. 1. Because discipline is not built by intensity, it is built by reliability. When you keep one promise to yourself, something powerful happens inside your mind. You begin to trust yourself, and self-trust is the foundation of confidence. Think about how trust works with other people. If someone says they will call you and they do, you trust them more. If they say they will show up and they show up, you rely on them. The same rule applies to you. Every time you break a promise to yourself, even a small one, you quietly teach your brain that your word doesn't matter. Every time you keep it, you teach your brain that you are reliable. Most people fail here because they start too big. They promise an hour of work, a perfect diet, a full workout, a flawless routine. Then life happens. They miss a day. And instead of adjusting, they quit. Discipline doesn't collapse because you miss once. It collapses because you stop returning. So make it almost impossible to fail. 5 minutes of focused work, 1 page of reading, 1 decision made intentionally. The size does not matter. The repetition does. Because showing up when it's easy doesn't build discipline. Showing up when it feels pointless does. This habit rewires your identity. You stop saying, I'm trying to be disciplined. You start saying, I am someone who does what they say they will do. Confidence grows quietly here. Not because you feel amazing, but because you have evidence. Real proof. Day after day. There will be days you feel tired. Days you feel uninspired. Days you question whether this even matters. That is the moment discipline is actually being built. Not when you feel strong, but when you act without the feeling. Success follows the same pattern. Big results are simply small actions done consistently over time. No one applauds the early days. No one sees the effort. And that's the point. Discipline is forged in private. So choose your one promise. Protect it. Keep it boring. Keep it small. Keep it daily, because when you master keeping one promise, you unlock the ability to keep bigger ones. And that is how discipline, confidence, and success quietly begin to take shape. What if confidence isn't something you gain after you succeed, but something you earn by facing discomfort on purpose every single day? That idea challenges everything we're taught. We're told to wait until we feel ready, to act when we feel confident. But real confidence is born the moment you stop avoiding what makes you uncomfortable. The second habit is deliberately doing one uncomfortable thing each day. Not something reckless, something honest. A conversation you've been avoiding. A task you keep delaying. A decision you know you should make. Discomfort is the price of growth, and most people pay it only when life forces them to. The disciplined choose to pay it daily on their own terms. Think about fear like a shadow. The more you run from it, the larger it becomes. The moment you turn and face it, it shrinks. Each time you step into discomfort, you collect proof that fear does not control you. And proof is what builds confidence, not positive thinking. At first, this habit feels heavy. Your mind will create excuses. It will tell you tomorrow is better, that now is not the right time. That voice isn't protecting you, it's keeping you small. Discipline is learning to hear that voice and act anyway. This is where basic turns into advanced. Anyone can do what feels safe. Few are willing to lean into resistance voluntarily. But every time you do, you expand your comfort zone. What once felt terrifying becomes manageable. What felt impossible becomes normal. That is how confident people are made. This habit also changes how you see failure. When discomfort becomes familiar, failure loses its power. You stop seeing mistakes as proof you are not enough and start seeing them as evidence you are trying. Confidence doesn't mean you never fail. It means failure no longer defines you. Over time, something remarkable happens. You stop waiting for courage. You realize courage shows up after action, not before it. Discipline trains you to move first. Confidence rewards you afterward. Success depends on this habit more than talent ever will. Opportunities don't go to the most comfortable people. They go to those willing to step forward while others hesitate. Growth is always on the other side of discomfort. So today, choose one thing you don't want to do but know you should. Do it calmly. Do it deliberately. Then notice how your self-respect grows. Because every time you choose discomfort over avoidance, you become the kind of person who cannot be stopped by fear. What if the habit that separates disciplined people from everyone else is not how hard they work, but how clearly they control their environment? Most people believe success is about willpower. It isn't. Willpower is unreliable. It fades when you are tired, stressed, or distracted. The disciplined don't rely on willpower. They design their surroundings to support the person they want to become. This habit is about removing friction from good behavior and adding friction to bad behavior. It sounds simple, but it is deeply strategic. Look at your life honestly. Your habits are shaped more by what is easy than by what is important. If distractions are within reach, they will win. If discipline requires constant resistance, it will eventually lose. Think about this. If your phone is always beside you, focus becomes a battle. If junk food is visible, restraint becomes exhausting. If your goals require constant self-denial, you are setting yourself up to fail. Discipline is not about fighting temptation all day. It is about reducing the number of fights you need to win. High performers don't have more self-control. They have better systems. They prepare their environment in advance when their mind is clear, so their future self doesn't have to struggle. This is quiet discipline, invisible discipline, and it is powerful. As this habit develops, confidence grows in a surprising way. You stop blaming yourself for struggling. You realize the problem was never weakness, it was exposure. When you change what surrounds you, your behavior changes naturally. You begin to feel in control, not because life is perfect, but because your choices are supported. This habit moves from basic to advanced when you start designing your environment around identity, not just tasks. You don't ask, what do I need to do today? You ask, what would the disciplined version of me make easy? Then you build your space around that answer. Success accelerates here. Because when the right actions are easy, consistency becomes natural. You stop relying on bursts of motivation and start moving steadily forward. Progress stops feeling forced and starts feeling inevitable. Look around you right now. Your environment is shaping you, whether you like it or not. The question is whether it is shaping you intentionally or accidentally. Discipline begins the moment you choose to design your life instead of reacting to it. So remove one distraction, add one support. Make one good habit easier and one bad habit harder. Do it today. Because when your environment works for you, discipline stops feeling like a struggle and starts feeling like alignment. What if the habit that truly separates successful people from everyone else is the standard they refuse to negotiate, even when no one is watching? Discipline deepens the moment you stop asking what feels convenient and start deciding what is acceptable. This habit is about raising your personal standards and defending them daily. Not loudly, not dramatically, quietly. Because every action you tolerate becomes the blueprint for your future behavior. When you allow excuses, they grow. When you allow inconsistency, it spreads. But when you set a clear standard and honor it, confidence takes root. Most people live with invisible loopholes. They say they value growth, but accept distraction. They say they want success, but tolerate procrastination. The gap between who you want to be and who you are is almost always protected by a lowered standard. Discipline is the courage to close that gap. At a basic level, this habit starts with one question. What am I no longer willing to accept from myself, not from others? From yourself. That question is uncomfortable because it demands responsibility. But responsibility is where power lies. As this habit develops, something shifts internally. You stop negotiating with your weaker moments. You don't argue. You don't explain. You simply act in alignment with your standard. Confidence grows here because your behavior becomes predictable. You know how you will respond under pressure, and that certainly creates self-respect. Advanced discipline shows up when the standard is maintained, even when results are invisible, even when effort feels unnoticed, even when no reward is immediate. This is where most people quit. Not because they can't do the work, but because they don't see proof fast enough. Standards remove that problem. You act because it's who you are, not because of what you get. Success follows people with standards because standards create trust. Others trust you. Opportunities trust you. More importantly, you trust yourself. You become someone who doesn't need external validation to stay consistent. This habit also protects your energy. When your standards are clear, decisions become simple. You waste less time debating. You stop revisiting choices. You conserve strength for what matters most. Look closely at your life. Every area you feel stuck reflects a standard you have unconsciously accepted. Raise the standard and behavior follows. Not instantly, not effortlessly, but inevitably. So decide today what your new minimum is. Decide what behavior is no longer allowed. Then honor that decision, especially on the hard days. Because the moment you raise your standard and live by it, discipline becomes natural, confidence becomes stable, and success begins to move toward you without resistance. What if the habit that multiplies discipline and confidence faster than anything else is learning how to finish what you start, even when the excitement is gone? Because starting feels powerful, but finishing is what changes your identity. This habit is about follow-through, about completing small tasks fully, deliberately, and with care. Most people are addicted to beginnings, new plans, new routines, new motivation. But success doesn't reward enthusiasm, it rewards completion. Discipline is not proven when you begin, it is proven when you finish. Think about how many things are half done in your life: half read books, half built goals, half kept promises. Each unfinished task quietly drains your confidence. Not because you failed, but because your brain is keeping score. Every open loop is a reminder of something you didn't complete. Over time, that weight becomes hesitation. When you practice finishing even something small, your confidence changes. You start to feel capable, grounded, reliable. Finishing sends a clear signal to your mind: I see things through. And that signal is powerful. At a basic level, this habit starts small. You clean one space completely. You finish one task before switching to another. You close the loop on one responsibility today. Not perfectly, completely. Discipline grows when you resist the urge to chase the next shiny thing and instead honor the task in front of you. As this habit advances, it reshapes how you experience discomfort. The middle becomes the hardest part. The excitement fades. Progress slows. This is where most people quit. Disciplined people stay. Not because it feels good, because quitting is no longer an option they entertain. They don't ask if they feel like continuing. They ask what the next step is. Confidence grows here because you no longer fear boredom or resistance. You trust yourself to endure. You stop relying on emotion and start relying on commitment. And commitment is stable when feelings are not. Success is built by people who finish. Opportunities come to those who can be trusted to complete what they promise. Results compound when effort is sustained long enough to matter. Finishing is what turns effort into outcomes. This habit also simplifies your life. Fewer open loops, less mental clutter, more clarity. Energy returns when you stop carrying unfinished business everywhere you go. So today, choose one thing you've been avoiding finishing. Complete it calmly, without drama, without perfection. Just finish. Because every time you follow through, you strengthen discipline, deepen confidence, and move one step closer to becoming someone who cannot be ignored. What if the habit that sustains discipline, confidence, and long-term success is not pushing harder, but learning how to recover without quitting? Most people think rest is weakness. It isn't. Quitting is weakness. Recovery is strategy. This habit is about intentional recovery and self-respect. Discipline is not built by burning yourself out. It is built by knowing when to pause without losing direction. The strongest people are not those who never get tired. They are those who know how to rest without abandoning their standards. Many people fail not because they lack discipline, but because they exhaust it. They push relentlessly, ignore their limits, and then collapse. When they stop, they don't recover. They disappear. Confidence erodes here, because burnout feels like failure even when effort was honest. Intentional recovery changes that story. It teaches you that rest is part of the system, not an escape from it. You stop seeing breaks as giving up and start seeing them as preparation. This mindset protects discipline from self-destruction. At a basic level, this habit begins with listening. Listening to your energy, listening to your focus. Listening to your body and your mind, not to obey every urge, but to recognize when strain becomes counterproductive. Discipline means staying in the game, not winning every round. As this habit deepens, confidence grows in a quiet way. You stop panicking when progress slows. You trust yourself to reset and return. You no longer measure strength by how much pain you endure, but by how consistently you show up over time. Advanced discipline appears when recovery is intentional, not reactive. You plan rest the same way you plan effort. You protect sleep. You create moments of silence. You disconnect to reconnect. This is not laziness. This is leadership over yourself. Success demands longevity. Short bursts of effort rarely change lives. Sustainable effort does. Recovery is what allows effort to compound instead of collapse. Without it, discipline becomes fragile. With it, discipline becomes resilient. This habit also reshapes self-talk. You stop criticizing yourself for needing rest. You stop using exhaustion as proof you are not enough. Instead, you see recovery as a signal of maturity. Confidence strengthens when you respect your limits without letting them define you. Look at the people who last. They are not reckless. They are not constantly rushing. They move steadily, calmly, intentionally. They understand that discipline is not about speed, but direction. So give yourself permission to recover, not to quit. Step back without stepping away. Rest without lowering your standards. Because when recovery becomes a habit, discipline lasts longer, confidence stays stable, and success becomes something you can actually sustain over time. What if the habit that quietly accelerates discipline, confidence, and success is learning how to reflect instead of react? Most people move fast, but few move with awareness. They repeat the same days, the same mistakes, the same frustrations, and call it effort. Discipline deepens when you pause long enough to learn from yourself. This habit is about daily reflection, not overthinking, not self-criticism, honest review, asking simple questions at the end of the day. What did I do well today? Where did I break my standard? What will I adjust tomorrow? Reflection turns experience into wisdom. Without it, effort is wasted. Think about it. If you never look back, you keep walking in circles. Reflection is how progress becomes intentional instead of accidental. It is how confidence grows from awareness, not ego. When you understand your patterns, you stop being surprised by your own behavior. At a basic level, this habit is quiet and private. A few minutes alone, no phone, no noise. Just you and the truth. This is uncomfortable at first because reflection removes excuses. You can no longer blame circumstances when patterns are clear. But responsibility is not a burden. It is freedom. As this habit develops, discipline becomes smarter. You stop repeating what doesn't work. You stop forcing habits that drain you. You refine instead of restart. Confidence grows here because clarity replaces confusion. You know why you succeed and why you struggle. That knowledge makes you dangerous in the best way. Advanced reflection is not emotional. It is objective. You don't judge yourself. You study yourself like a leader reviewing strategy, not a critic attacking character. This shift is powerful. It keeps you accountable without destroying motivation. Success accelerates when reflection becomes consistent. Small adjustments compound faster than dramatic changes. One insight applied daily outperforms random effort fueled by emotion. Reflection ensures your discipline evolves instead of staying rigid. This habit also strengthens emotional control. When you reflect, you respond instead of react. You stop letting bad days turn into bad weeks. You separate events from identity. One mistake no longer defines you. It simply informs you. Look at people who grow rapidly. They are not necessarily smarter or more talented. They are more aware. They learn faster because they pay attention. Reflection is how you shorten the distance between intention and behavior. So tonight, before you sleep, ask yourself 3 questions. What worked? What didn't? What will I do differently tomorrow? Answer honestly, then act on one insight. Because discipline guided by reflection becomes precise, confidence grounded in awareness becomes unshakable, and success stops being accidental and starts becoming repeatable. What if the habit that transforms discipline and confidence into unstoppable momentum is mastering your focus, not your time? Most people chase productivity like it's about hours, checklists, or to-do lists. It isn't. Productivity is about where your attention goes, because attention is the currency of achievement. This habit is about deliberately choosing what deserves your mental energy and protecting it fiercely. Distractions are everywhere. Social media, notifications, unnecessary tasks, negative people. Every time your focus scatters, your discipline weakens. Confidence, progress stalls. Success waits for no one. Think about a laser. It doesn't scatter light in all directions. It concentrates energy into one point. That intensity is what produces heat, fire, transformation. Your focus works the same way. Multitasking feels productive, but spreads your energy so thin that nothing actually changes. At a basic level, this habit begins by identifying your high-impact tasks each day. Not everything is equally important. Not every email deserves a response. Not every demand deserves your time. Protect the tasks that move the needle toward your growth. Let the rest wait. Discipline is strengthened here because boundaries are reinforced. Saying no is not failure. It's strategy. Every yes you give to the wrong thing is a no to the right thing. The moment you protect your focus, you take control of your life, and confidence grows naturally because your actions align with your priorities. As this habit advances, focus is no longer a conscious effort. It becomes a muscle trained through repetition. You create blocks of uninterrupted time. You resist temptation. You schedule reflection and recovery around attention, not just hours. This is where ordinary effort transforms into extraordinary results. Success compounds when your energy is consistently applied to meaningful work. Random business produces exhaustion, not growth. Laser-like focus produces results that are visible, measurable, and undeniable. That is why top performers achieve more with less time than average people. This habit also protects your mental clarity. Less scattered thought, less stress, fewer regrets. Confidence deepens because you trust your ability to prioritize. Discipline becomes habitual because focus demands consistent self-management. Look at the people you admire most. Their secret isn't working more hours. It's working on the right things with undivided attention. Master that skill and everything else follows. So today, identify your highest value action. Remove distractions. Commit to concentrated focus for a deliberate stretch of time. Because when attention becomes your habit, discipline becomes automatic, confidence solidifies, and success no longer feels accidental. It becomes inevitable. What if the habit that ties every other habit together, the one that guarantees discipline, confidence, and success, is taking full responsibility for your life? No excuses, no blaming, no waiting for someone else to fix it for you. This is the final, often ignored habit that separates people who dream from people who achieve. Responsibility is not about guilt. It's not about punishing yourself for mistakes. It's about ownership. Every choice, every action, every outcome, whether good or bad, starts and ends with you. Discipline grows when you stop pointing fingers. Confidence grows when you stop waiting for permission. Success grows when you accept that your life is yours to shape. Most people fail here because they misunderstand responsibility. They believe it means perfection, or that life must be easy. It doesn't. Responsibility is about power. It's about saying, I am in charge of my choices, and therefore the direction of my life. Once you accept that, excuses lose their grip. Complaining loses its appeal. Fear loses its control. At a basic level, this habit starts with small actions, taking ownership of your schedule, your health, your commitments, even your emotions. Not because life is perfect, but because the first step toward control is noticing where you are making choices and acting consciously on them. As this habit deepens, confidence explodes. You stop relying on luck, opportunity, or other people's approval. You become reliable to yourself first. Discipline becomes unstoppable because it is no longer optional. It is the natural result of owning every moment. Advanced responsibility means even setbacks are fuel. When things go wrong, you analyze, adapt, and act again. You don't blame circumstances. You don't wait for the right time. Every failure becomes a lesson, every obstacle a challenge to prove your resilience. This is where true success lies, not in comfort, but in relentless accountability. This habit also simplifies your life. Decisions become clearer. Energy is no longer wasted on complaints or blame. Confidence stabilizes because self-trust replaces uncertainty. Discipline becomes effortless because it is backed by purpose and ownership. Look at the most successful people in the world. They didn't wait for perfect conditions. They didn't demand permission. They took responsibility, acted consistently, and let results follow. So today, commit fully to owning your life. Every choice, every habit, every action, no excuses, no waiting, just deliberate, relentless ownership. Because when responsibility becomes your habit, discipline solidifies, confidence radiates, and success is no longer a question of if, but when. This is the habit that completes the cycle. One habit leads to the next. Discipline supports confidence. Confidence fuels action. Action produces results, and responsibility ensures it all lasts a lifetime.